everybody, and welcome back to the second episode of Malcolm Castaways. My name is Hannah. Joining us today is Braxton and my very special aunt, Amy, coming in all the way from Oklahoma. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself just a little bit?
Sure. As Hannah said, my name is Amy, and I am a meteorologist in Norman, Oklahoma. I work at the Radar Operations Center. I think we'll dive into that a little bit more later, but that's me.
How did you get into your job? Like, how did that look? Did you just apply for it and here's a very special position?
Well, I really didn't know what I was getting into at the time. I still remember my interview, which was via telephone at the time because I was up in Minnesota with my first career. And I remember at the end of the interview, they asked, any questions for us? And I said, well, am I really what you need? You need a meteorologist for this position? Because it sounded very, very technical. But they assured me that I'm exactly what they needed. And I'm glad that they did, because it's been 13 years now. And it's an amazing job that I have. I get to have fun every day. And now I get to talk to you guys about it. So
that's fun. Did you always
for being with us?
No joke. Did you always know you wanted to be a meteorologist and even be on Malcolm Castaways? Has that been your main goal your entire life, just to be on this podcast?
Ever since Hannah was born, I was hoping I could do this one day.
Okay. I'm sure.
Actually, I was thinking about that with that moment when I knew I wanted to be a meteorologist. And I always liked science. I've always enjoyed math. I'm just, very left-brained, driven. But I remember this day, I was probably about 10 or 11 years old, and I was in my backyard, and it started raining. And it took me by surprise. I looked up, and I'm like, why is it raining? And because it really didn't look like there were any rain clouds or anywhere. And so I realized it wasn't even raining in my front yard. So I went in the front yard. Of course, it was dry there, and call me a nerd, but I just thought that was really, really cool that, there was an edge to the rain, right? That there, could be a stop and an end all in one location. So I was just kind of hooked. And, from then, my parents had a hard time keeping me inside during severe weather. I was always running outside, storms.
I just think it's funny because a lot of kids on our side of the family are really interested by science. Like, from a young age, I loved science and space. And I know there's some other kids in our family that love science and space. And my brother used to be like that too, but he's kind of stepped away from that. It's more computers. But I think that it's just awesome that we have that in our family. It's pretty cool.
Well,
pretty cool.
Kaylin is loving space and math, numbers right now. She's in kindergarten, so it's not real math, but she's loving numbers and knows all the planets and things. And so she's definitely going to follow similar footsteps, I think.
I think that's awesome. Go ahead.
So here's a question I'm wondering is, what kind of education did you have to go through to get to your position?
Well, I have a bachelor's in atmospheric science from the University of Missouri. It's at my diploma actually says soil and atmospheric science, because back then they were grouped together at the university. They've separated now, I believe. But so my diploma does actually say soil, even though I have no classes in that or whatnot. So I always just say it's atmospheric science. And then I do have a master's in atmospheric science as well from the State University of New York in Albany. I knew I wanted to start getting out of the Midwest a little bit, see what else was going on in other schools and whatnot. And I really wasn't really ready to enter the workforce. I didn't know what I wanted to do with meteorology. I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to have crazy hours. I knew I didn't want to be going to broadcasting. Being right in front of the camera every day. It wasn't quite my thing. So, I went to master's program and did that for a couple of years. And then I did actually go into broadcast, but radio broadcasting was my first job out of the gate up in Minnesota. I did that for about 1.5 years before I came down here to work at the ROC, the Radio Operations Center.
So was getting your master's difficult in that process?
No, I mean, it was just, another level to college. The classes were much more difficult. And then you have to write a thesis, which I actually left the university prior to finishing my thesis, which I later did complete. And I mean, it came together just so perfectly in a way, because once I got my job down here, there was a tool that we used to kind of assess the calibration of radars and whatnot, but it needed to be assessed and need to be vetted and validated. So I ended up doing my thesis on that tool and was able to actually complete my master's while I was working at the ROC. So it was a long, drawn out process, but I mean, I wouldn't say it was difficult. It was just you accept the new challenges as they come to you, and you work through them. So it was a good experience.
Have you had a lot of jobs in your career, like just all around the country? I think you've had a couple jobs, like different places.
Well, I mean, those are my only 2 career jobs. Hannah, I think you're thinking of when I went to NASA.
Yeah.
that was an internship I did during, I think that was between my junior and senior years of college, I believe. I don't know, I have to do the math. But I did do a project at the university, or what NASA was at. I should have looked that up. I already forgot. Goddard Space Flight Center, that's what it's called, over in Greenbelt, Maryland. And so I spent the summer of 2002, I believe it was, out there doing a research project with, and there was, I think about 16 of us students that had various mentors that summer. A lot of kids that were going into chemistry or physics or whatnot. And then I was the oddball I was the only meteorologist out of the group.
Really? That's interesting.
So I did, my project dealt with comparing rain estimates from in situ, like ground gauges, to what the satellite was measuring. So sounds kind of boring, maybe a little number crunching, but it was a good experience and fun for us that summer.
I bet it was a great experience.
That sounds awesome. You're so cool.
It was, because it was, all of us were, sophomores or juniors in college that were there, 16 of us from all over the country. So, I mean, that part was really, really cool, because I got to meet a bunch of other nerdy scientists, from around the country. It was good.
That's so cool. Okay.
So will you kind of outline, like, what does a standard day at work look for you?
For me, well, I spend a lot of time assessing the quality of radar data. We have Doppler weather radars, the WSR 88D is the acronym that we use. And we have all throughout the country and a few overseas. So I spend most of my time looking at the data, seeing if it's of good quality and useful for the meteorologists that are using it to provide warning operations for the public. And then I also work on several projects that are, the ultimate goal is how can we improve the quality of the data. So we're always looking at new ways that we can put into the software to make the data better. But I mean, I get to look at pretty pictures all day.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And there's so many, like, it's fun to talk about, because when you're looking at radar data, it's not just weather that you can see on the displays. There's all kinds of, really anything that moves can be seen. We can see traffic, birds, bugs, bats, wind turbines get picked up and whatnot. So it's fun when, meteorologists in the field call in and what's this, and get to analyze it for them and explain what's going on. So.
Do you think a lot has changed based on that because of the lockdowns that we've had and just COVID-19 in general, with the less pollution being in the world and less activity going on people-wise outside? Do you think weather has had a big effect on all of the COVID-19-ness?
I would have just thought, the air quality might improve, I guess, as we're not driving around as much or whatnot. But then, fires out west, I think, kind of hinders that air quality aspect. So I wouldn't really expect to see significant changes weather-wise because of us, not traveling.
Have you ever been seeing a really bad storm yourself and had a lot of people like, Amy, what is this? Help you with that?
Well, I didn't have anybody asking me. When I was thinking about that question, Hannah, I was thinking about when I was at University of Missouri, I was on the storm chase team there. In my senior year, we spent a lot of time chasing. I mean, we spent lots and lots of time chasing. And finally, most of the chases we go on were big busts. We run into just hail or wind, not real significant storms. But finally, May 4th, 2003, every meteorologist you'll talk to will have a date in their head of what their most significant storm or whatnot. And that's kind of mine, because that's when we finally did intercept tornadoes that day. We got to see 2 out in near Leavenworth and Wyandotte, Kansas. And I remember that one just because it was in a very residential area. And so it just devastated some of the communities out there. But so, it was good for us because we got to finally see that, but it was also really heartbreaking because we got to see the aftermath of it too.
Well, one thing that I've been thinking about while you're saying about the devastation is, what do you think these fires are going to bring to California in that area of the U.S.? I mean, because from media, it looks like there's just total desperation.
Yeah, when big, huge fires break out like that, when rain finally returns, it usually creates mudslides and flooding and all those types of things occur, which can cost additional lives after the initial natural event of the fires. So unfortunately, I would expect to have more hard days ahead for those areas if as rain starts moving back into those regions.
Is there rain supposed to be coming back into those areas?
Well, I was just looking there. It looked like Washington and Oregon are seeing a little bit of precipitation today. So,
good.
But not in Northern California. They definitely need it to help put out the fires, but I worry about flooding aspects after that as well.
I know like a month ago, there was like 5 different tropical depressions happening at one time. Were you like all over that?
We at the Rock, we will staff our meteorologists 24/7 when there's going to be a landfalling hurricane. And we were just wondering, like, when's this going to end? When's this string of pearls, it kind of starts looking like when they all get set up. 2020 there's nothing left to surprise me about this year. I shouldn't say that too. Like, I don't know, but that's what I'm wondering is like, what's next? All these storms. 2020 is, I think, second in line now for the most storms at this point in the season, just second behind the 2005. But then there's still October and November to get through with respect to the hurricane season. So it's been a crazy year in all aspects of it. And, we all wouldn't mind a little calm weather here right out the rest of the year, I think.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Do you recommend any of like specific weather apps to watch? Because I know one time I was like going on Weather Channel, and they're like, why are you using Weather Channel? There's way better apps.
I'll say I have worked for the National Weather Service, so you want to be looking at the National Weather Service weather forecasts, and they do have an app. Unfortunately, that one's not free, but you can go online. All the offices have Facebook pages as well, and they frequently update them. They're on Twitter as well, so you can definitely get easy access to forecasts and all the information that you need in terms of warnings and watches and whatnot through various media that the National Weather Service provides. So I'll just leave it with that. Like, you want to be looking for National Weather Service. Definitely.
What would you tell kids that are thinking about going into STEM as an encouragement, as kind of like, this is why you should do it. Here's why I do it.
It's fun. I mean, we all know that, when we graduate high school, graduate college, that next step is a job. And why not do something you love and do something you enjoy and do something that can change day to day and learn, and you can keep learning throughout your career, because there's always something to learn with respect to science and math and whatnot. Definitely, like, if there's something that interests you that's in science, math, any of the STEM areas, go for it, because it's just, if you can have passion about your work, then it's not really a job, it's fun. So,
any last things you'd like to say about who you are, what you do? Plug, if you will.
Man, we've covered so much of it. That it's great. My particular job is awesome because I've had the flexibility to work at home and throughout this whole COVID thing. It was challenging in the spring because I had my children here. So it's juggling work and their virtual school, and the summer met its own challenges, but luckily Hannah was down here for a couple of weeks helping me out and being an excellent caregiver to my children and just having good times there. So that was good. But I don't know, I've enjoyed this quite a bit. I'm not as easily as into conversation as Miss Hannah there. She can just run with things all the time.
You can hear Mahoney laughing in the background of Braxton's video.
She and I are quite opposites in that. Hannah, you were in the first episode of this, you were talking about missing the social aspects and being around people, they give energy. Well, that's the opposite for me. It wears me out a little bit, but
so this online thing you're fine with. You're like, okay, I'm down with this whole not seeing people.
It has been long enough now where I'm like, there's some coworkers I would like to see face to face and interact with, and not just, through email or chatting. So I think I might have to start trying to ease my way back in one day a week or something if they'll allow it. But it's been good. It took some time getting used to working from home, but now that I do, I want to keep doing it even after normalcy returns, or I don't like to actually say it that way, just whatever. Once we return back to the actual workplace, still get to work from home a couple of times would be great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on our second episode. Braxton, do you have anything final to add?
I just thank you so much. This has been really fun. I know I learned a lot, and
I know. You used a lot of smart words. I feel way smarter.
Well, great. Thank you. It's been fun. I appreciate the opportunity. I can't say no to my niece Hannah there, so definitely.
Because I'm your favorite.
Well, we don't have to tell the others.
Okay, we don't have to. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seriously, this has been great.
You're welcome.
That's been fun.